Good morning. This is the IDP 411 with Jarod Gray, co-host Jordan Rains, and the producer, the Dynasty Chef Steve. Morning, guys. How you doing?
Good.
Doing
Good
good.
morning. Happy to be here. Happy to break down some of Sunday's action with you guys.
Yeah, man, kind of crazy day yesterday. Got a lot of guys that broke out a little bit finally. We did. It was a show me week, like we talked about before.
Mm-hmm.
Last Monday, kind of hoping for it to be a show me week. Big injuries that popped out yesterday. Easily had to be
Keanu Neal,
Keanu
right?
Neal. Yeah, Keanu Neal looks like tore his Achilles. Originally thought a knee injury. Uh, Sucks, man. I mean, they're going to move KZ back. So if I can tell you one thing, it's go pick up KZ. He's already actually listed as strong safety on the NFL.com. So he ended up playing a decent game yesterday after. So we'll see how that rolls out and see what happens.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, Ricardo Allen, it could be the guy, right? So
Yeah. He's going to be somebody you're going to want to roster as well.
Mhm.
He's shown himself to be a pretty good ball hawk, kind of just around the ball a lot. Hasn't made any really spectacular plays yet this year, but he's going to be given the opportunity now. I imagine him and KZ will be shouldering the load there at safety for Atlanta's struggling. I mean, they couldn't beat the Colts yesterday.
Mhm.
Not that the Colts are great or anything, but the Colts, I mean, they don't look bad, honestly. I mean, Jacoby Brissett looks like he's very capable. I just expected more from Atlanta after, the Calvin Ridley blow up the week before. He ghosted yesterday.
he definitely ghosted yesterday. He didn't do anything, didn't help them out. Really quiet, really first half for Matt Ryan.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then Austin
Defensively,
Hooper,
they were real strong. So
him and Austin Hooper kind of came out of nowhere in that third quarter,
yeah, so
put him back in the game.
and defensively, they didn't really do a lot. And maybe losing Keanu Neal definitely was one of those things, but they didn't really fly around the ball. Deion Jones didn't have a great game. He had an okay game.
Yeah. He hasn't had a great game yet this season though. He's just kind of been living in that okay area.
Yeah, he's been on that quiet spot, about 5 tackles. It seems like where he's just hanging out, and
A lot of guys like that.
it's very middle of the road for somebody that a lot of people have in their top 5 linebackers for the season, preseason. So
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe, some guys just slowly balling out and some guys.
Yeah, like one of the guys we'll talk about in the studs section a little bit, Jamie Collins again, just showing up.
Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy to me. I mean, he just continues to ball out, and he's the first name that comes to mind because he bounced around, going from the Patriots, let's go to Cleveland, get paid, let's
Mm-hmm.
get cut by Cleveland, and then ran right back in New England where you were discovered and balling out again. I mean, it's 3 weeks in a row. This guy has been going crazy.
Yep, and
So
he's not even playing 100% of snaps. That's the crazy part. I mean, this is the second week in a row he's been a top 10 linebacker, and he's playing, under 80% of snaps.
well, what was it, 2 weeks ago? He played like 36% of snaps, and in those 36% of snaps had 2 interceptions for touchdowns. I mean, so
30, 50, something like that. I mean, it was a lot less than a lot of guys that are
yeah,
every
just not
snap.
very much. And he continues to come out crazy. He continues to show that he's as valuable as they come. I don't know about you guys, but I know that there's somebody that owns him in our league who won their first game and maybe won their like fourth game in a dynasty league in the last 2 years. So I am trying to go get Jamie Collins. So we'll see if I can pull that off. But I don't know. I did sit Chandler Jones yesterday, and he went bonkers as well.
Mm.
So
He had a big game, which I mean you kind of saw coming, playing the not officially a rookie quarterback, but a young quarterback.
Kyle Allen definitely can toss it, but I guess in that aspect, Chandler Jones has been one of those guys I've been iffy to start because he had a great first week and then nulled not last week or 2 weeks ago, and then wham, here he is again, just another great week. Now, give you
Yeah,
being
is he gonna
fumble and fumble recovery obviously helps. So
Yeah, the big plays, but that's what Chandler Jones brings to the table, though, is disruption and big plays. So it's kind
He's
of
gonna be one of those up and down guys. You never know when to trust him.
yeah. Well, as a pass rushing linebacker, it's kind of like that, but he's one of the ones where I mean it'd be hard to take him out of my lineup if I had him. I don't
I mean,
have.
he had 2 tackles for loss. He had 2 sacks. He had an assist. He only had 4 solo tackles. For an outside linebacker, it's kind of hard to start that person. If he was listed as defensive tackle, I'd play him every week,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
or defensive end. So,
Mhm.
which is really where he should be because he's not really playing outside linebackers.
No, I get it. They should change his designation.
But
we gotta talk
if I knew that
about.
was going to happen,
We're kind of burying the lead again with this last. We gotta talk about Shaq Barrett.
dude,
Mm.
Shaquill Barrett
Man,
going bonkers. Easily,
he's
probably the most talked about guy in all of IDP again this
wow.
week. I mean,
Outside linebacker for Tampa Bay. Nobody really saw it coming. I didn't really hear a lot of offseason rumblings. And
No.
on the season, what does he have? 8 sacks in 3
he has
games.
Yep.
8 sacks.
He has 8 sacks in 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
He's like the only pass rusher that is making any noise in Tampa Bay. But I mean, he's making plenty of noise himself.
All the noise.
6 solo tackles yesterday, 4 sacks, 5 QB hits, 2 forced fumbles. I mean, talk about a game.
Yeah, there's a point in the game where he caused a forced fumble and then just raises his arms and with this big old smile, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, dude, this dude even knows." Like,
Yeah,
it's
he
just
knows.
kind of crazy.
He knows what he's doing. I'm looking at the leaderboard for this week for a linebacker. He's a full 10 points ahead of the second guy on this list. A full 10, and it'll give you a little bit of the difference between 2 and 3 is 0.2 of a point. So he's a game wrecker. I played him last.
I've been picking him up for free everywhere.
I don't know how.
I gotta check my leagues and see. I mean, I kind of didn't buy in the first couple of weeks, but I'm fully bought in.
I saw it. I was like, man, I saw that, and I was like, just picking them up everywhere. I was like, man, I think I got a feeling.
Yeah, I mean, if you trusted that feeling, it's paying off big. Okay, granted, he did play the Giants, so we can't give him too much credit there. But
no, I know, I get it.
He's getting
still early, but
he's basically locked in for a sack a week, 2 sacks a week right now.
Mm-hmm.
And he's playing a really high number of snaps. He's playing, what we got here, 92% of snaps. I mean, that's great for an edge rusher.
See, I'm a risk taker. I say it's worth the risk. I mean, especially if you got deep benches, and I like to play with deep benches. I don't have really a whole lot of leagues where it's shallow benches, especially my IDP leagues.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about deep benches and stuff yesterday. Had a pretty good show yesterday, even though we missed you, Jordan. I mean,
yeah,
it happened. We did call somebody out yesterday. We had a question from a viewer said, "Should I play Preston Brown or Nigel Bradham?" I was solely on Preston Brown, and I think the other guys were too. Just so it's funny. You and me were talking about Preston Brown first week of the season. Somebody brought him up to us on our show, and he's kind of slowly been playing pretty well. He didn't have a great game yesterday. He had 4 tackles, he had an assist, but then he had 3 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, and a forced fumble. He balls out yesterday. And then kind of doing what I was hoping he would do. I didn't expect the 3 sacks and 3 tackles for loss, but it did happen. His best game of the year so far. So I'm glad that we were able to help somebody out. But if that person, and I'm being Jackson on our YouTube, if he ended up playing Nigel Bradham, and I can't wait to find out later this week, but it'll be hilarious if he did.
Yeah, that would be a tough blow. That would be a tough, big pill to swallow if you did.
Yeah, big game for him.
I forgot we had one other injury that was a little bit pertinent. We missed earlier on before we got on. We were talking Alec Ogletree. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I did see him pull his hamstring during that
big return. So that's That's tough for the Giants. I think also Davis, their other little running or linebacker, Ty Davis. I didn't see anything yet. It's pretty early when we record this, guy, so we don't have the news hasn't really cycled through on what happened yesterday for a lot of these guys. But pretty sure Davis got hurt too yesterday. Who's their second main linebacker there? So that's definitely a situation to monitor. There might be some waiver wire gold sitting out there.
Well, I can tell you one thing is I was early in the season, and somebody had asked me about him is O'Shane Zimenez, and I did a little dime drop, a little IDP 411 on him early in the preseason because I just like who he is and how he came out of Old Dominion. I like small school kids that become big. He had a good game yesterday.
He did. I've got him in a couple leagues.
A big sack, and I think with guys getting injured, he is going to get an opportunity to play a little bit. Man, he looks a lot bigger than I thought he was. I mean, I knew that he was a decent-sized kid, and his production in college is crazy. But once he got that sack yesterday, you're like, wow, this dude is actually a pretty hefty fella. So maybe somebody go grab on you. You know what I mean?
I picked him up on a couple of months.
Another interesting stat is he's the only NFL player that his last name starts with an X.
Yeah, I heard him say that yesterday on the on the broadcast. That little bit I was watching.
Kid's pretty solid. You got to check him out. So might as well give it a look. So that's definitely one person that it's maybe look at rostering for sure.
Yeah.
He might have the opportunity.
I wonder if he's the only one that's ever had an X in the NFL ever.
He is the only one ever.
Huh.
Crazy.
To start, his name starts with an X.
Yeah.
I'm gonna read down this list of some of these linebackers that we all, we kind of were on that, or most people were on that had good games. There's a few outside linebackers, pass rushers, but I'm just going to try to kind of focus on the middle linebackers, the inside linebackers that most of us were talking about leading into the week. But Devin Bush was kind of leading the way for everybody for IDP yesterday. Again, he finally played 100% of snaps. 11 total tackles, 2 fumble recoveries. I know sidebar there, Minkah Fitzpatrick, just got traded to the Steelers and played 100% of snaps on Sunday after being with the organization like 48 hours. He had a huge game. He'll be in the stud section for safeties, but he ended up being a top 8 safety this week, which, the guy's he's legitimately one of the better playmakers in the league right now, a young playmaker. I think the Steelers dropped that game, but they're in a good spot as a team. Anthony Walker was filling in for Darius Leonard. He ended up with 11 solo tackles yesterday, it looks like, which, is what you want, solid tackle producer. Zadarius Smith and Preston Brown both had good games. They're outside linebackers, but you kind of saw that coming playing Denver, and Zadarius Smith has been on fire. Preston Smith also, we talked about him earlier. He's been doing really good. Whitney Merciless showing up again as a top 15 option. Blake Martinez showing up again, doing what he does, getting his 12 tackles. Jalen Smith running out there and making Leighton Vander Esch owners a little bit. We're starting to get a little bit, little sweat, a little perspiration.
I'm one of those Leighton Vander Esch owners, so I'm a little iffy on him for sure.
I have a team where I have both of them, and it's like Jalen's just come through more than Leighton has so far.
One's playing 100% snaps, one's not, and the guy that's playing 100% snaps is getting. Maybe there's an injury we don't know about. I don't know.
I really couldn't tell you. Maybe they were just blowing out off.
Back up.
They would take out Jalen Smith before they took out Vander Esch since they paid Smith. But T.J. Watt, he making a top 15 appearance. He goes into our rankings as an edge rusher usually, but he's officially an outside linebacker. But he had a really good game yesterday. 2 sacks, an interception, fumble recovery. The 49ers were just getting ripped apart yesterday by the Steelers defense. Deion Jones had a pretty decent game, 9 tackles, an interception. Hassan Reddick showing up in a top 20 position. He had 12 tackles yesterday. That's pretty legit.
He had a huge game.
Yeah, he's going to be a guy. I haven't seen Jordan Hicks on this list yet. Hassan Reddick might be out there on some of your waiver wires. I know he's on at least one of my league's waiver wires, so I'm going to be looking at him this next week. Zach Cunningham showed up again. Not a huge game for him, but he was kind of saved by, I think he had a fumble recovery. Yeah, he did have a fumble recovery. There was a lot of fumbling going on yesterday.
There was a ton of fumbles yesterday. A lot of fumble recoveries.
Butterfingers.
Thomas Davis kind of fell back to earth. He only had 7 tackles yesterday.
Only.
Half a sack. Only. Yeah.
Mhm.
Luke Kuechly, 10 tackles, nothing else really. That's kind of your main studs at linebacker for the week. You had your solid guys. Jayon Brown still had a solid game. Joe Schobert, solid game. Patrick Onsworth, solid game. But
Joe Schobert had a fumble recovery too.
did he? There's another one.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, he picked up that one that Myles Garrett forced.
Yep. Nice. So Kenny Young finally showed up in the box score too. He had 6 tackles total.
He's been really overall. I would say he's as high as a lot of people, and a bunch of people came at us like, "Hey, Kenny Young."
He hasn't.
We haven't been really high on him because he just hasn't really been balled out.
Well, and if you watched the game yesterday too, or listened to it, I was listening to it in the car on the way home because we were driving, and he was making some on-field mistakes. It sounded like the announcers were talking about. So I was kind of surprised he actually managed to stay on the field as much as he did. But
I would say one of the bigger surprises for me, who you were just talking about, Jair Alexander for cornerbacks continues to show up. And I don't know what the kid's doing, but he needs to keep doing it.
Well, it's that whole, like we said before the show started, the whole Green Bay defense is looking very stout, very capable, especially for IDP. But even on the field, they're looking good.
In general, I'd say we stay away from cornerbacks, but Marshawn Lattimore had a baller game yesterday against, and really it turned out real late because it's all Seattle did was throw the ball like crazy at the end of the ball game, and it was always towards that side. So he ended up having 10 solo tackles, 12 total tackles, a pass defended. Had a good game overall. Dante Jackson, I said last year that I would hate to target this kid when he's on, and he was on. 2 pass defended, 2 interceptions, 5 solo tackles yesterday, and a tackle for loss. That dude balled out yesterday against Arizona.
Yeah, he had a great game.
Yeah, it was one of his best games. We kind of stay away from
2 interceptions. I don't know. I saw both of them, and I mean, Kyler Murray. I don't know, man. They should have been able to beat Carolina, I think. Although I don't think anybody expected Kyle Allen to come out and be a top 3 quarterback this week, and I think that's exactly what he did. So
yeah, dude went bonkers. He has a cannon. He has a good arm, and
So
he's got weapons.
He does definitely have weapons.
He got a touchdown out of both the receivers, something Cam Newton hasn't done yet. So
exactly. I
mean, the guard now, huh?
Even with Christian McCaffrey on my team yesterday, had 30-something points in our league, and I'm still going to lose that game, which so I actually had David Johnson and Christian McCaffrey going back to back, so I'm just like score.
Nice.
And I'm going to probably lose that game by like 5 points, so we'll see how that works out.
I've
got one hope, and that's my man Danny Trevathan pulls out a victory for me tonight.
You better hope it's a big play.
I'm hoping for like an interception for a touchdown or something.
Yeah.
3 tackles for loss. Let's get it. Give me a Jamie Collins day.
Yeah, that would be
sacks.
Give me one of those days. So we'll see what happens. I'm really banking on tonight, fellas. Banking on.
Yeah,
tonight.
I'm hoping that Chicago defense is tearing it up.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much all they do.
I want Roquan to have a day.
We had some good strong set or good DBs this week too. I'll kind of read off some of the studs there.
Jordan Poyer was so
underrated.
He's
him and Harrison Smith. I mean, they're every week starts, and they're not necessarily as sexy as like a Jamal Adams or a Keanu Neal. Rest in peace. But they're playmakers. I mean,
I haven't
Jordan
taken Jordan Poyer out of my starting lineup.
11 solo tackles, forced fumble, fumble recovery. That's good for DB1 this week, even over Dante Jackson's, 2 interceptions and all that. Von Bell, we talked about him on our other show last week a little bit as a guy who is probably going to be the biggest benefactor from the Drew Brees injury and then the linebacker situation with New Orleans. And he came through for us. He's number 2 this week. He had a really good game. He had a touchdown. He had a fumble recovery. He had 9 tackles. I mean, he balled out.
We called that. We're wondering how much defense they were going to play, and we said Von Bell was a guy that we were really interested in, and he pulled that off. You actually asked a question yesterday: who would be better, Terrell Edmonds or Jabril Peppers? I believe, right?
Yeah, I sent that one through to you guys. I ended up playing Terrell Edmonds.
Yeah, good baller. You listen to the group.
Yeah, he had.
You got to. I mean, can you imagine now they got Terrell Edmonds and Minka Fitzpatrick, both of them balled out?
Yeah, well, they were both top 10 DBs yesterday. I mean, I'm looking at the list right now, and Minka Fitzpatrick, like I said, he kind of shocked us. Played 100% of snaps after just getting there, but he was a game changer. I mean, he had a forced fumble, he had a big interception. He played all the snaps.
I cannot believe they lost that game with that.
I know, it was madness. It was absolute madness.
It was a fun game to watch, though.
No, it was. I remember sometime like early in the third quarter, it was on, and I was like, this is the most fun game that's on right now because it was just back and forth battle. And you know what else was like that? It was the Tampa Bay game was kind of like that too. Tampa Bay and the Giants. Like those games were both very fun to watch, and it was like you really didn't know who was going to win.
Another person that kind of popped out of nowhere and been kind of quiet in the football field, not off the field, is Eric Reed. 6 solo tackles, tackle for loss, sack. Quarterback hit. I mean, that's a pretty solid game out of strong safety. So,
yeah,
can't forget about him. And then John Johnson, who continues every week to have something. He has a big play. It just, I mean, he's bound to have. He was quiet until really. I mean, he had 9 total tackles, but 7, were assists, and then an interception and a pass deflection. So. I mean, it was clutch again yesterday.
I don't ever take him out of my starting lineup either.
As you should. I mean, continues to ball out. I'll be honest with you though. If I had John Johnson, I might even trade him for Jordan Poyer just because.
I got Jordan Poyer too. So
if I had both of them, I don't know what I would do.
I'd start them both every week.
You might have the greatest defensive team put together on the planet.
Yeah. Ronnie Harrison, another stud of the week. He had 11, I think 10 or 11 total tackles.
I will put this down. You're talking about Ronnie Harrison. Jordan called Ronnie Harrison week 1, said, watch out for this dude, and continues to put him in his group and continues to ball out. So give you a little golf clap on that one, buddy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Balling.
He's I mean, it feels good to have him on a couple of my teams that I have on. And Jarod Wilson, he didn't have a huge game this week, but he's another they're just solid safeties. And honestly, it's funny, like you're talking about safety tandems. I mean, the tandem in Pittsburgh now has to be on that list with Minka and with Terrell Edmonds.
Oh my god!
I got that one on another squad. I love it.
The safety tandems have been pretty awesome to watch. Obviously you talk about Sean Williams, Jesse Bates. You talk about Budda Baker, DJ Swearinger now, because both of those guys are balling. It was the quietest week, I think.
It's the quietest week Budda's had. I think he only had 5 tackles this week.
Yeah, which he still had 5 tackles.
Yeah.
Tyrann Mathieu, Juan Thornhill, both playing pretty well. Tyrann Mathieu's probably best week this week. Really been kind of quiet.
Yeah.
Again, you got Jamal Adams and your boy Harrison. So, and then you got Ronnie Harrison,
Jarod Wilson. You could even put Eric Reed, Trey Boston in there as a little bit of a little lighter version. And then, but right now, I think the studs to watch out for are going to be Terrell Edmonds and Minka Fitzpatrick. I mean, them on the back end as disruptors and playmakers. And then you have, Bush and TJ Watt up front, and then I know Cam Hayward went down yesterday too. We didn't talk about that, but it looked like he might be out for a little bit. Stephon Tuitt is playing out of his mind. I mean, that's why I was amazed that the Steelers lost yesterday, because their defense looked so good. I mean, they were just giving Garoppolo absolute hell yesterday.
Yeah, completely agree with
You're
you.
telling me.
Somebody who kind of jumped in yesterday, Michael Thomas.
Yeah,
That kind of came out of nowhere, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't
I'm
really see him.
I'm not
Maybe.
going to get him or anything like that, but he's definitely worth monitoring.
I mean, didn't have a phenomenal game, but I mean, he did have a decent game here and there. So,
Yeah.
Taylor Rapp last night, he ended up getting burnt a few times,
Yeah.
having a rough game. So I'm not really sure about him. I'm not sure he's on my list of people to go get, to be honest with you.
I'm in a couple
He made a
leagues where
pretty
I have
good play
to
at the end, though.
Yeah.
I mean, Jamal Adams had another good game. I mean, he continues to be a stud.
The best safety in the NFL.
Ooh, maybe.
And, I mean, I think he is.
I mean, Jordan Poyer is definitely giving him a run for his money this year.
Yeah, so far. But
Terrell Edmonds, too. I mean, both those guys are. I'll tell you, the biggest rookie surprise is Darnell Savage.
No, you're right.
For most people, not for us. Obviously, like I've done 411 on the kid. I mean, the dude's for real. I can't believe he went to number 26 though. So I was a little upset. I wanted this 21 Savage to be a thing.
Yeah, it's funny. We had 3 guys this week we talked about amongst ourselves that kind of have been letting people down. I tweeted something about this being a big show me week for IDP. And 3 of those guys that I was worried about, I mean, literally almost the top 3, were Calais Campbell, DeForest Buckner, and J.J. Watt. And this week, the top 3 defensive linemen of the week are Calais Campbell, DeForest Buckner, and J.J. Watt. I mean, they've had great games. 3 sacks for Campbell, 1 sack for Buckner, 2 sacks for Watt. DeForest Buckner finally got back up there and doing what he does, getting tackles. That's kind of why I was very high on him. He's a high tackle floor, and he did a little bit of everything this week. He had 7 tackles. He had a sack. He had a forced fumble and a fumble recovery. I mean, he was an absolute stud this week for your defensive line.
And a tackle for loss.
And a tackle for a loss, yep. Calais Campbell, similar situation. He's just been quiet to start the season. He came out strong this last week. 7 solo tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. And then J.J. Watt got right. Like I said, he had 5 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. It just shows you the merits of patience in this game of IDP, especially for your defensive linemen. It's easy to forget, but last year, I mean, Aaron Donald was the number 1 defensive lineman for IDP, and through the first 3 weeks, he didn't have a sack, and then he had 20.5 sacks last season. So some of these guys, we had a question yesterday. I wasn't on the show with you guys yesterday, but I saw the question. It was, do I drop J.J. Watt? I don't even remember who they were asking if they should pick him up.
Yeah,
I was just like, please do not, for the love of God, drop J.J. Watt.
Yeah, it was
trade him.
It was I forgot the other person because they were talking about dropping him.
I don't remember either, but there's so much.
Both said the same thing. If you're willing to drop him, you should at least trade him.
Yeah.
Why waste it? Because I said, but honestly, you got to weather the storm with some guys. Yeah. J.J. Watt's gonna show up. He's too good not to show up against a decent team in the Chargers, and he balls out. Yeah. So weather the storm. He gave you.
And it's funny too. 2 other guys that have come up in this exact same conversation throughout the Twitter sphere, and and conversations have been Josh Allen and Trey Flowers. They were 4 and 5 this week at defensive linemen, and I've heard people talk about cutting them loose too. I actually did drop Trey Flowers in a league. I'm pretty set at D lineman. I needed a roster spot for something else, but I'm gonna go back out there and look around for him. Maybe if he's still out there, put him back on my team.
It was nice to see Josh Allen finally show up, to be honest with you. Obviously, I was hot on him being a rookie. One of my favorite rookies. I mean, he was a baller in Kentucky, and he's the main reason Kentucky won 10 games his last year there. And for him to show up, and the fact that they had Calais Campbell and him ball out, scary. So do I expect that out of every week? No. But if you got a quarterback that's kind of struggling and they're going to play the Jags, watch out.
Yeah.
Those
Aaron
two
Donald
are
finally showed up in the stat sheet too. He had 4 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a sack. Like some of these guys are just a little bit slow to start. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't sell them for peanuts or drop them. That's my advice. If you draft a guy to be a stud and he's a stud, just because he hasn't put up stud numbers yet is not a good enough reason to cut him dry or cut him loose. I will be honest, though. I am starting to worry a little bit about Frank Clark. We're 3 weeks into the season, and he really hasn't wowed me for IDP.
It's funny. His name came up a lot yesterday on the broadcast. He just didn't have a big game. He had like 4 or 5 quarterback hurries.
Yeah, he was still productive. Yesterday was one of his most productive days of the season so far.
A decent game, but
decent. But I expected him to have a much better season with the Chiefs, at least to start the season out. I don't think he's even broken into the top 10 yet once.
I'll tell you what's funny or not funny, but it was nice to see is Rashawn Gary actually show up in the stat line yesterday. He's a guy that they were very high on at Green Bay and really hasn't done anything. And I think he still got nicked up. So we'll see what happens. The one person that comes to mind that somebody asked a question about yesterday is that is Brian Burns playable? And I said, well, yeah, of course, Brian Burns is playable against a quarterback who tends to get sacked. He's a rookie. Got to play him if you got a chance. Had 4 solo tackles and a sack and a tackle for loss. So if you played Brian Burns, you had a decent game out of him. So
he came up productive. Circling back to Rashawn Gary, he only played 36% of snaps yesterday, but he was definitely a game changer for Green Bay. He was making legitimate plays out there for them on those minimal snaps. So he might be a guy, although both the Smiths are playing out of their mind, he might be able to work his way onto the field a little bit more if he keeps up the production.
I mean, they did draft him for a reason. I mean, the kid is pretty solid. He had a fumble recovery. He had a tackle for loss. He had a sack. He had a great game yesterday, really, especially to play 36% of snaps. So you can't grab about that if you had him.
No, definitely not. A couple of other guys that were kind of ho-hum, Joey Bosa and Danielle Hunter. I think we both expected more out of them yesterday than we got. Especially with Bosa playing Deshaun Watson. I expected him to have 2 or 3 sacks. Kind of a quiet day for him. I think he had 1 sack or half a sack. He had half a sack. Danielle Hunter was 1 for 1 for 1 for 1. I mean, he had 1 tackle, 1 assisted tackle, 1 tackle for a loss, 1 sack. I mean, nothing. Especially for playing Oakland, I thought he would have a little bit more in his stat sheet too. But again, you fire these guys up as DL1s, DE1s every week. They didn't let you down completely. They didn't give you 0, so you can be happy about that.
Yeah, I guess one that came up for me yesterday had to be Chandler Jones. And I know we've talked about him a little bit. But was yesterday going to be his best game of the year, or something we're seeing as a floor? I mean, me personally, I had him on the bench and kind of killed me for having him on the bench. I mean, he had 4 solo tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery. We know he's a big play guy when he is in, and he's either up or down, what am I looking at for average this next year out of him? Because he's in a different position, really.
I'm gonna trust him just because he has the resume to go with it. He can pull a game like that out of his back pocket, and
that was his best game. Yeah. Even if you count last year. Last year he had a good game against San Francisco for 37 points. Yesterday in the MFL he had 42 points. So that's his best game of his career, by the way, guys.
Really?
Yeah. Thanks. So now his rookie season, he had a great game against Jacksonville. He had a great game against Seattle. Indianapolis. I mean, he blew up his rookie year. If you had him, he had those up and down games, but he was good for average of 21 points in MFL his rookie season. So last year, an average of 16 points, and then right now he's on average of like 30. So actually, his average right now is 24. So we'll see what happens. Again, he had a down week his second week, but again, he's in a different position, so he's either going to blow up or fall out. So we're going to see what happens. The biggest mover for me in our group is got to be Preston Smith, man. I mean, three tackles for loss and 3 sacks. Obviously, Shaquill Barrett is going bonkers at 6 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. I mean, that is the craziest stat line for a guy that just seems to be really happy in a spot that they're not winning games. So, I mean, which is crazy because you thought they had a blowout going yesterday with Mike Evans having one of the best games of his career.
Well, they should have got that. I don't know why they didn't. That all happened in the first half too. He had 1 catch the second half. I was kind of annoyed by that they didn't put their foot on the gas. You know, they just kind of started running. It was Peyton Barber and Ronald Jones over and over, and then all of a sudden, you know, New York's right on their tail, and then New York wins. So that's on Bruce Arians. That's on that's on a lot of people. That's not just on that kicker. That's on play calling. That's on, you know, not the Bill Belichick way is keep scoring, you know, and that's how he did, and it caught up to him. I got a little, this is not necessarily in our plan, but I want to talk to you guys a little bit about this. There's a couple of guys in the Chargers defense that are interesting to me. So we had Kazir White, who was filling in for Perriman the past few weeks, and he did pretty good. He only played 12% of snaps yesterday. So Perriman was back, but Perriman only played 63% of snaps.
I mean, that's 63 though.
Compared to that's obviously a big difference, but he didn't really do much with it. The other guy on that defense I'm interested in is Nasir Adderley. I thought with Adrian Phillips and Derwin James going out, we would see Adderley come out there and be a guy who's playing 80, 90, 100% of snaps at safety. He only played on special teams yesterday. That was it.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Maybe they thought they had something bigger, and once the crazy thing is when Nasir Adderley's playing, he's balling out. But and especially with the injuries they've had, you'd expect him to have a better chance, more of an opportunity.
I don't understand why he's not on the field.
Again, we're not coaches. Maybe he's pissed somebody off and he's in the doghouse or something. But that dude is a baller sitting, you know, doing special teams right now. And I'm with you 100% on that. It sucks because he's a good player. He's a good athlete from a small school. I like small school kids that show up. And I'm with you. 100% with you on that one. I can't believe Nasir Adderley is not playing more.
Yeah, it just doesn't compute for me, you know.
Especially a team that's been out of it every week, to be honest with you. I mean, they lost to Detroit, they lost to the Texans now, so who knows what's going on there, to be honest with you.
Detroit, they beat Philly yesterday, which was wild.
There was a lot of drop passes in that game.
Yeah. Well, Nelson Aguilar is your number 1 wide receiver. That'll happen.
True. That's true, I guess. I don't know. Shit, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, like I said, I'm just surprised that he was one of their first draft picks. I mean, 1 or 2, and he's had everybody in front of him that would seemingly be in his way to get on the field, get hurt, and he's still special teaming it up. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm with you 100%. You know, it's I don't know. He's got to be the biggest one to be shocking that he's not playing of all the rookies that has the opportunity to play.
Exactly. I feel like he should be on the field. I feel like he's just gonna come out one of these weeks and play 100% of snaps and just be like DB1 out of nowhere. But we're just not going to see it coming.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those points like I told you guys. Where he's going to be saying that. But, I mean, it's not like Joey Bosa's having a big time either. But let's talk about Rashawn Jenkins and Jalen Watkins are the starters right now. And Nasir Adley's third on the depth chart.
Yeah, and he was like third before too. Like, how these guys just keep going up, up, up? I just don't understand.
Desmond King's getting a lot of playing. I mean, Desmond King is playing quite a bit, which is kind of nuts. Especially in that type of defense, you expect him to play more. And and that team is super young, man.
Yeah, and maybe
They got like 12. They have like 12 rookies on that team that aren't getting chances to play. Really, none of them are starters, except for I don't know. Literally, none of them are starters.
Yeah.
So
we didn't really do the dud section this week, but we did have a few guys that let you down. Grady Jarrett was one of them. Danico Autry, after both of these guys have been pretty consistent the first couple of weeks, they didn't really do too much. Von Miller and Bradley Chubb. Bradley Chubb actually had a half decent-ish game, but Von Miller, I don't even know if I can play Von Miller. I mean, I know we just talked about, you got to play your studs and these guys will bounce back, but
Bradley Chubb is the one guy to own there. It seems like it's not.
Something's off with Von Miller this season. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the new coaching situation, but he's just not himself on the field.
Agree with you 100%. Not sure what's going on with there, especially a guy who was wanting to have a big year this year, not to do anything.
He's just, I don't know. He concerns me, and his linebacker designation. I mean, there's a few linebackers you can play that are just, really defensive ends essentially. T.J. Watt, Shaq Barrett, Whitney Merciless had another good week. He's consistently just been a great IDP play this season, but he had the linebacker designation. But Von Miller, you'd think would be one of those guys, and he's just not this year so far. I'd be looking to trade him if I had him personally. And if I can't get a trade for him, I'm not starting him.
Yeah. Yesterday I saw a lot of injury bug out of guys just getting small nicked up, and I'm a little worried about Justin Reed, to be honest with you. It looked like he injured his shoulder twice in the same game yesterday against the Chargers. He's a guy I might be, rostering. He might go to injury reserve. Not sure what's going on with him right now, but he left the game late yesterday when they really needed him.
Did he? I missed that. Dang.
Had his shoulder dragging.
That's not good.
Not good at all, especially from his and that entire safeties, corners, the whole background, all got hurt yesterday. It was you saw guys just popping out of nowhere, and then you had one guy who ended up playing okay as a die and I think honestly it's because everybody else got injured.
I saw that. Yeah, I did see that he was kind of making some plays there, and I kind of wondered where Reed was because I felt like that was more kind of his style. So,
yeah, Jalil Dye ended up playing pretty well in comparison, but I think it's because he got some injuries. I mean, and Reed was having an okay game. He wasn't having a breakout game by any means, but it was rough to watch, to be honest with you, especially considering I started Justin Reed. And, I start him every week, but now I'm a little iffy. Might have to injury reserve him, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I got one more kind of question on a guy for you. Test the waters on how you're feeling. Give me 1 second. I want to pull him up. I want to make sure I got his stats right in front of me. All right, so Bobby Wagner yesterday. Apparently he had 18 combined tackles. Am I reading this right?
Yeah, he balled out. I mean, they were on the field a lot yesterday. I mean, being a home game, you expect Seattle to really show out, especially against a quarterback who hasn't played much at all in the last 3 years. Obviously not going to sit on Drew Brees.
Holy shit.
But yes.
18 combined tackles. A lot of them were assists.
He did have a ton of assist tackles yesterday.
It's about time he showed up with a big game. He's a guy that we rank every week, in our top 10 easily. And he hasn't really had a big game like this. I mean, sure, most of them were assists, but still a tackle is a tackle. And it's good to see him out there actually making some plays for your IDP team finally.
It's funny because he didn't have a,
be.
like we were talking about, he didn't have a crazy solo game. And he had 24 points in MFL, and all of those because of assist. And that tells you, you don't get many points from assist from, in a game. But if you get 24 points out of a player, and then you find out he had 18 tackles, you're like, how quick that could have been 45,
Mm-hmm.
50.
He only has 15 assists. He only has 15 solos on the year. So he had almost as many assists yesterday as he has solos. I'm looking.
Well, they have
Mhm.
the other guy next to him too, right? That's pretty solid.
Kendricks are right.
Right.
Yeah.
KJ Wright,
Mhm.
who's gave you almost the same amount of points if you were, if you played both of them. And funny thing is, I know somebody that did play both of them in one league, who left Jamie Collins on the bench, by the way.
Oh.
But it doesn't matter. That person's going to end up destroying because they started Russell Wilson and Tyler Lockett. So this person is she's a girl in our league, in one of our leagues, and she is obviously a Seattle Seahawks fan. She played 4 of them yesterday. She might have played more than that, but I
They
know
were
for
on
a
the
fact
field a lot. That's
5, 6. She played 6 Seattle Seahawks yesterday,
Wow.
and
Homer.
how the F word does Teddy Bridgewater not get sacked a single time today? I saw like that for one of the very first drives, they almost sacked him in the end zone, and then he went the rest of the game and he was pretty much untouched.
yeah, which is crazy, right? Because
He's
but
not
if
that
you really
good.
think about it, how much is Drew Brees sacked? Not much, right?
No, not a whole lot, but more than that, I mean,
We are talking about a guy who was almost a first-round draft pick. He was the second pick or first or second pick in the second round by the Vikings. I think they might have moved up to get him, but I know for a fact that he was a very high draft pick for the Vikings. He played pretty decent with the Vikings, even though Adrian Peterson was hurt a lot. And then I've always said, if you watch the guy's red zone offense, he's solid, and he was solid yesterday. And it's not like their defense balled out. I mean, except for the force, Von Bell had the fumble recovery for a touchdown, which is going to give you another 7 points. It was a big play for the time of the game. But Kiko Alonso didn't play hardly at all yesterday. And I
yeah,
really thought and Eric Klein got burnt like 3 times. You're like, dude, how's this dude still playing right now? I'm just watching him get toasted. Tyler Lockett ran an out route on this dude and left him by 6 yards in the end zone. And you're like, Tyler Lockett had a massive game.
Huge game.
Which will tell you, dude, why isn't Kiko getting the chance? It's not like he's injured right now. Especially, and they're winning. I get that they're winning, or they won the game, but
there's no telling. It's kind of like the Nasir Adderley thing we were talking about. It's like a guy can be good and useful for IDP, and we can like him all, as much as we want, but ultimately the coach's decision to throw him out there, and apparently in their infinite wisdom, they're not.
So can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
Sure. Who are your biggest concerns right now?
My biggest concern is probably going to start being Yannick Ngakoue. I've been hoping that he would do something useful. He still hasn't got a sack yet this year, and
he was injured Thursday, right? Which is why Josh
played. He played. He had like 4 tackles. He was supposedly hurt his hamstring 2 weeks ago, but I mean, I don't even know if I don't know how bad he was hurt, because he was right back out there, and hamstring you'd think would take a little longer to get better. So I don't know. Yannick Ngakoue is my biggest concern right now. I have him on a couple of teams. He's looking closer and closer to maybe somebody I might send to waivers just to play the game. I'll keep an eye on him. Hopefully he bounces back, but that's just real.
For me, it's DeMarcus Lawrence. Really expected a lot out of him. They've played 3 very weak teams, and maybe because they're not also on the same team, Leighton Vander Esch is not getting 100% of snaps. They don't need them, right? Which is interesting. I mean, they're not needing these players to ball out, but you got to have a little. If you're an owner of either one of them, you got to wonder what's going on. And let's give you Demarcus Lawrence had a decent game, so he did have a sack. But with the level of competition they've been playing, I expect 2 or 3 sacks. I expect him to be one of the sack leader guys, and he isn't right now. And maybe he's getting double and triple teamed like Aaron Donald is, but they didn't really ball out yesterday. The Cowboys didn't. I mean,
he should have done more than he's done. And that's the thing. It's really just come down to they should have more in the stat sheet than they do. And for IDP, I at least want a solid baseline, or to know that these guys are going to have that upside. But it's just, I don't know. It's a roster decision every week. Am I going to play him or not? And with what level of confidence do I play him if I do?
Yeah, another guy for me, B.J. Goodson isn't. He obviously went to Green Bay, not playing a whole lot. He's got a whopping 5 combined tackles on the season, not doing anything. I can't believe I really want to see Rashad Jones start playing more. Obviously, now that Minka's gone, he was injured yesterday, so I get that he's not playing here. But I he's got to be somebody asked if they should keep him. Yes, they got to keep him because they traded Minka Fitzpatrick away, and the dude is a baller. So I don't know. I need him to step up, I think, personally.
Yep.
You got to see him step up, especially with Minka gone, and that team is they might go 0-16, being dead honest with you.
I would not surprise me at all based on what I've seen. But I think that pretty much covers everything for today. We had a little bit different format than usual, but as the season's kind of progressing, we have different things we need to examine rather than just who did good, who did bad. So it's kind of good.
Overall, really appreciate it, guys. Been a good morning. Again, this will be out real soon. So
yeah, shout out to expandtheboxscore.com. They have some good stats over there. We use that to kind of look at snap counts and tackles and weekly production, stuff like that. So give them a look if you guys haven't. We'll be up on there. We'll be on Spotify and all that. Give us a review. Give us a little 5-star review if you want to, if you appreciate us, if we have anything useful for you. But besides that, I'm pretty much, just follow us on Twitter, all 3 of us. I'm at 50 Shades of Drunk, Jordan Rains. At Jarod Gray is Jarod Gray. And at the Dynasty Chef is Steve. And, we tweet stuff all through the week as we dig through the data and as we look at matchups we're like coming up. So, we're always putting out content, not just in podcast form, but also, in written and spoken form as well. So keep up to date as we prepare for the next week 4.
I can't wait. Let's get tonight's game going and we'll be good to go.
Yep.
All right.
Let's go.
IDP 411 signing off. You heard it here first.